Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back into the Buster Show. Today is a very special episode because we have repeat guest Darren Rovell and first-time guest Adam Goldberg, the founder of Popup Bagels, which both Darren and I have invested in. We're here to talk bagels, but first, how are you guys?
Awesome.
Really good to be here. And I love, as you know, you talking about things other than basketball and cards and business in general.
So
Bagels.
there's nothing better than bagels. I grew up in New York. Darren, where did you grow up, by the way?
Long Island, where I would argue, again, the bagel is a serious business. And I think, this podcast is not going to be about bagels. We're using bagels as an example of, I think, how to do business. I mean, I'm not going to tell you how your podcast, what I just did. That's what this story is about. This is using bagels as a vehicle to understand best business practices.
Now, people always say, like, when it comes to pizza, that New York pizza is better than West Coast pizza. And it's probably because of the water. I mean, that's the one big thing that I keep hearing people say. Is that same thing true with bagels in Northeast versus West?
I really don't think so. I mean, I've made bagels now all over this country, and I've never noticed any difference in anything we're doing as it pertains to the water. So I really think a lot of it is just the love and care put into the product and the vibe that you set out from the product as opposed to water per se.
Now, Adam, you had other businesses before this that were successful. What made you want to dive into the bagel business? Because that's not something that
Adam Goldberg, tell them what your daily what your grind was before bagels. Because
I mean, it's still my grind. I mean, I've got a flood business. I've been helping buildings and cities and airports mitigate floods since 2012, right around Hurricane Sandy. And it's still, I mean, this month was probably the most active we've been in years. With all the storms on the East Coast. I never actually set out to get into the bagel business. I was making bagels to have fun. And, it started out last July and me and my cousin were just hanging out in the pool and we said, let's make bagels tomorrow. So for 3 days we made bagels. And on the fourth day, our wives kicked us out of the kitchen and said, stop cooking, go buy bagels. So we went and bought them and they kind of sucked. And our kids were like, we don't want to eat these. What happened to the good bagels? And we were like, oh, wait a second. Maybe we're onto something. So the bagel business really found me more than me having any desire to get into it. And, it's just been the most fun I've ever had in my life. We are just, since last summer, just making people smile every weekend. And it's grown from 5, 6, 7, 8 people in my backyard to 30 people to 50 people. And now it's 300-400 people every weekend that are buying a dozen bagels from us and expanding every week. It just gets busier and crazier and more fun.
Now, this is something that was a first for me, and Darren, I'm curious if this is a first for you as well. Seeing a product like bagels sell out, that was never a thing. Like, Adam, I doubt you see this in the flood business where you like drop a link and then people have to like buy the flood coverage and then it sells out. But it's something that I was first exposed to with sneakers and Supreme. And that's why I've always called Popup Bagels the Supreme of bagels, because things actually sell out.
And that makes more sense to me now because I didn't know what Supreme was, to be honest. So
I would say, Adam has been a genius here in the idea of making bagels special. So one, the product works and it's a great bagel and people want it. And then taking the traditional model of bagels are always available. The biggest inconvenience is you might have to wait on a long line, but then bringing it to popping it up in various places and contributing to how special it is. So the product is special, but then the process of getting the product is also special. And missing out for the first 3 weeks, or how can I get these? You can't get them. Like, no one has ever said that in the history of the world since the first circular bread was made. So like, and that was great, whether purposeful or not. But the thing that was purposeful about this whole thing is, and I'll let him tell more of his story, but as it got more viral, he resisted the temptation to make it anything but what it was in the past. And that helped continue the buzz.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up every Sunday or Saturday. My family would come home from Livingston Bagel in New Jersey with a dozen bagels and cream cheese and butter, throw it on the table. And the four of us would sit around the table and eat bagels and talk about the weekend or talk about the week ahead. And, over the past few years and longer than few years, probably, it's turned into people waiting in these 20-person lines at the bagel store, and they're buying a, bagel with, this egg and this bacon or this cheese or this spread. And they go home and everyone takes their bagel and they go into the other room because they're already packaged. They're already made a sandwich, and the whole family point of it is over. So we really love the idea of, buying bagels by the dozen. And getting the spreads, and it lives with you for the weekend, or invite some friends over. And even our subscription model, which has people who every week or every other week are buying bagels at a specific time, and they have it set so that there's no line, they just show up, their bagels are there. Some people at the beginning were like, oh, well, I don't know what to do with 12 bagels, and all of a sudden they're now sharing them with their neighbors, or they're having their friends over every Sunday for a brunch. And it creates this whole atmosphere that, of love that surrounds eating the bagels on the weekend. I love that. I love that idea. So we really,
Adam, don't you think that, a lot of it has to do with, we were getting away from the bagel. The bagel became a vessel instead of the bagel itself. I mean, you talk about all these spreads and this and that. Like, the truth is, we were hiding the genius of the bagel. Like, why did I like a flagel? Because it had the largest surface area. That doesn't speak to the actual flagel itself.
Yeah. No, I mean, definitely the bagel has become this monotone, very inexpensive, cheap white flour, poorly made, poorly proofed, really bland, no flavor until you add something to it. We definitely have a lot of people who just eat our bagels straight up, no topping. Now we do get creative with our schmears and our spreads, and we love that concept. But at the end of the day, if you can pick up a Malden salt bagel and just eat it like it's, the most flavorful thing you've had, I mean, that's what really drives us and keeps us going forward.
And there have been some pretty ridiculous cream cheeses and things like that. You guys just debuted the cookies and cream cheese, which I don't know if you've ever seen them before. I was shocked when I saw it. I was, oh, this is so obvious. This seems like the natural evolution of a cream cheese to turn into dessert like everything else. You did the Utz cheese ball cream cheese. I know you've had like the
honey butter was excellent.
The hot honey butter.
Mike's hot honey butter. This week we're doing like roasted red pepper cream cheese, which just has an amazing, kick to it. And we've just, I mean, every week we try to be creative, and, we bring back, I think our most popular cream cheese from the beginning has been the dill pickle cream cheese, which, really everyone thinks they're going to hate it, and then they eat it and they just want more. So definitely keeps it exciting for us.
Now, what was the thought behind making them smaller? Because they're not the size of normal bagels. Was it to get people to want more, or was it, what was the decision?
It's definitely not a cost saving. It's more of a, listen, we know you're out. We know you're eating at a brunch or you're hanging out, and it's fun to have more than one of something. It's like if you've ever had the giant slice of pizza that you ever occasionally see out. It's like you finish one and you can't move after it. We really just wanted the bagel to be like more fun, more user friendly, and it's okay if you have 1.5 or 2. I would say most of the people who eat our product probably have 2 bagels in a sitting, and that's great. They don't feel like dense lead when they're done. I mean, they really, it doesn't hit you that way.
Buster, I think also what's interesting is just, again, I'm just thinking about this in general about, one of the reasons why I put my money in, not only to support Adam, but also just because, when you see things where best business practices are achieved wherever it is, and there's a virality to it, you want to be associated with it. almost forgetting about any returns or anything. So the most interesting innovation that Adam brought that I noticed immediately, anyone who follows me on Instagram knows I'm an everything bagel seed junkie. And I've tried everything bagel seed possible. And I noticed right away, the one thing that I hate about everything bagel seasoning is the salt is always wrong. It's a cube of salt. And if that cube of salt is in a ratio, even if the salt is the lowest part of the ratio, it destroys the entire thing. When I tried my first everything bagel from Popup Bagels, I knew the salt was different because it was a shaved down salt instead of a cube. So Adam, can you tell us what was done there? Because it was a clear recognition that something was wrong in the everything bagel equation.
A true love story by Darren Rovell.
Yeah.
It is. I
mean,
am in love.
we make no secret about it. We use Malden salt for both our salt bagels and our everything bagels. And the Malden salt tends to, stick together as a flake rather than just an immense sprinkling of salt everywhere. So, not every bite gets, you're not fully immersed in powdered salt on every bite. You get this one flake that kind of shines forward, and that's what hits you. I mean, yeah, our everything bagel is a very simple formula, and the Malden salt definitely, I think, is the kicker to it. And it just resonates with people. I mean, it's not, you don't feel like you're holding water after having the everything bagel here. Whereas a lot of bagel shops will also use powdered garlic and powdered onion along with powdered salt, and we just don't think that's the right way to do it. So,
interesting. Darren, what do you think? I want to go back to the size component of it, because I feel like such a big factor of like chips and very small snacks is like the physical aspect of like just continuing to pick things up. How do you think that that's a big part of why all of these small snacks are such a big thing?
Well, in the last 5 years, snacks by actual size have gotten smaller, but people are eating more of it. Like, this is science. You look at the people, if people have the mini Reese's cups, they'll eat 20 of them, which would equal 3 Reese's cups versus having just 2 in the sleeve. So smaller is definitely better. I would also say that it allows people to rediscover the bagel. Since the Atkins diet and since keto, bagel B equals bad. And so, I think that in order for you to understand that it's worth doing this, by the way, I don't know how Adam isn't 650 pounds right now. It's really amazing. Because if I was doing that, I'd be literally like and you don't remember this, Buster, because your butt wasn't born yet, but I'd be like, time to make the donuts guy. I mean, it would really be crazy. So I'm interested. We have to ask Adam about his his lack of testing in recent weeks and whether he even eats bagels anymore. But no, listen, I think actually eating 2 or 3 and then telling people it's so good I ate 2 or 3, that's a big part about this.
I've eaten 4 in multiple sittings and then gone on a run in the same day.
Listen, my wife has eaten 4. I've watched it. So it definitely, again, the size, it keeps it more achievable. We're also a lighter bagel. We're not as dense, where a lot of bagels have just become these dense, large, round pieces.
You can't even fit them in your mouth.
They don't fit in your mouth. And it's like, I was actually flying somewhere about a month and a half ago, and I was at JFK Airport, and I walked past one of the bagel shops there, and the bagel was so big, all I could think to myself was, who would want that in their stomach before getting on a plane for the next 4 hours?
But it's at some point, the size of the bagel and getting it bigger and bigger, just like muffins and everything else. I know I talked about like on the consumer, like in the bag and the candies, but it does seem like, selling a bagel, they just got bigger and bigger, and that was the natural default of it all.
Right.
I want to ask you both this. What's the most, because there's a big argument in like pizza world about, pineapple on pizza or not. What's the most ridiculous thing you guys have seen put on bagels in your careers? Or is that not even?
Adam's tried some things. I I haven't really. I mean, I'll put anything on a bagel, but I haven't
People
seen
do
some.
like peanut butter and jelly bagels. That's I
Yeah, I
feel like
mean,
that's
I
growing.
don't think there's, I don't actually think there's anything wrong to put on a bagel. I think we've recently started this, and I'm sure we weren't the first, but we've started making it popular as, and Darren had something to do with this, but we've started using trout roe um, as part of our packages, and people are absolutely in love with the either butter or cream cheese followed by like a spoonful of trout roe on top of the bagel. I mean, there's definitely not a lot of places in the country that are doing that, and it's pretty amazing. Um, you know, it's not a very expensive caviar, but it has such a great bite to it. And Buster, if you haven't tried that yet, next
Uh,
time you're by the shop, let me know.
I'll definitely take you up on that.
Yeah.
Now,
I have to intercept here because I have to
yeah,
tell my story about putting caviar on a. I have to intercept here because I have to tell a story about putting caviar on a bagel for the first time. So when I was 7, I went to a bar mitzvah, and I loved caviar. And I told my father I want to have bagels, cream cheese, and caviar every weekend.
Most people don't, Darren, by the way.
yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I've never even tried caviar on the
So
record.
my father sat me down and was like, "Son, let me tell you about caviar." And to his credit, Dr. Jeffrey Rovell researched and figured out how to get his son bagel, cream cheese, and caviar in an economical way. Caviar Taria in New York had a product called Kamchatka, which is the bottom of the barrel of Russian caviar. And so basically, they couldn't serve crushed eggs to restaurants. They had to be perfect caviar balls. So every couple pieces of caviar were crushed, but I didn't care. And it was sold for like 1/8 of the price. So kids would come over to my house and then tell their parents that I was eating bagels, cream cheese, and caviar. And it was, I'm not sure it was the most positive of impressions, but
Building the
that was
reputation
my
young.
thing. And I'm a caviar junkie. I order tons of caviar every New Year's to celebrate the new year. I'm a big trout roe guy. I'm a big salmon roe guy. I've had the $3,000 fried chicken with caviar at Momofuku in Vegas. So I'm a big caviar guy, and I love it. So I'm so glad you did the trout roe. I think a lot of people hadn't had that before.
Now, I don't know if you guys know the exact stats, but Adam, I'm sure you know it for Pop-Up. But what is the most popular bagel? Because when growing up, I only ate plain. And then probably once I had like 15, 16, I've only eaten everything since.
Yeah.
So
It's
what?
definitely the everything bagel is definitely the most popular from an adult perspective. And I would say the plain bagel is definitely from a kid perspective. It's just the easiest thing to pass off.
How do you mix the 12? Like, do you do 4? Like, what's the science
Our
of what you get
typical
in the
mix
bag?
is 3 everything, 3 plain, 2 poppy, 2 salted, or 2 salted poppy, 2 sesame, and 2 Malden salt. But we do get the occasional, hey, if someone has an onion or garlic version, we'll make a bag for them without the everything bagels in it. One of the things that kept us able to grow the business as fast as we did was by also just giving out the random bag. So rather than spending all the time trying to specifically place a bagel here or a bagel there, we typically, unless there's an allergy or something, we just give a dozen as it lays. Our salt bagel, we used to start with 1, and people love it so much we give 2 now in every bag.
Pop-Up Bagel salt stock is doing good.
Yeah, yeah. We've got about 30 buckets of Malden salt that we keep on hand just in case they ever have a shortage. We want to make sure we can keep our product going.
That's crazy. What's the most popular cream cheese flavor?
I think it's grilled scallion, which is what we offered this week. That was by far, everyone loves a scallion or an onion in their cream cheese. And definitely, you know, it was up against cookies and cream cheese, and the scallion definitely won over. I had a lot of people tell me the cookies and cream cheeses sound just terrible. And then they tried it and said, wow, this is actually amazing. But still, it definitely, I would say that was one of our least popular flavors as it came to the adults who were choosing. I think if the kids were choosing, they would go cookies and cream cheese all day long.
100%. The Utz cheese ball
Yeah.
cream cheese, that was great. And I remember I saw Darren, you tried like a, what was it, like Kraft mac and cheese ice cream.
You're on mute, Darren.
Mac and cheese ice cream, which is pretty good.
Yeah, how was that?
Yeah, I mean, it had the sweet and the savory. It worked.
Have you had the
it
Utz
really
cheese ball
worked.
cream chease though?
I tried the cream cheese. I liked it. I like the hot honey butter better. It came in the same week. I had a question for you, Adam. Like, what's the most outrageous story? Like either a celebrity, I know Harry Connick Jr. Got some and shouted it out, but like,
Yep.
or like, was there like a housewife kissing your feet? I don't want to get too graphic, but like, I mean, you have the wanted item. So like,
True.
what's the most embarrassing, like,
What's
oh
the
my
furthest
God,
people
thank
go?
you so much. Like, or, you know, like it's been pretty embarrassing how crazy people have gone.
Has
over
anybody
this. So,
traded you a car for bagels yet?
No car, but I did get to sit in one of the cars of the day. Someone drove up in like a late 50s or 60s Porsche, and we always try to, you know, capture the best cars every weekend when they're on the pickup line. He did tell me to go ahead and take it for a ride, but I chose not to. I was kind of too much going on in my mind right there to mess up the car. We haven't had too much crazy stuff, Darren. I'm trying to think. I mean, we've definitely had.
I mean, things sell out in a minute. That's crazy.
When we started the business, like the real pop-up where we're doing hundreds of dozens a weekend, I would say that sometime between like 11 o'clock at night and 3 a.m., I would get texts, and mostly from just like random people saying, come on, I need bagels. Let me know how I can get bagels. And my wife would always look over to me. She'd be like, Adam, you have to put your phone down. And I'm like, no, it's too fun. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. And someone is actually thinking right now, I need bagels 4 days from now. And I was like, that is amazing. That it's
so
not
ridiculous.
like, it's not, I need bagels in an hour or I need them in the morning. What can you do? It's Tuesday at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you're on your mind is, hey, any way you can fit me in on Saturday morning for a dozen bagels. That to me is just amazing.
That's actually a great idea. You should sell pop-up bagels on QVC at 3 in the morning.
Listen, I don't think we haven't thought about it.
You know, it's so funny. Like, Darren, if you had told me a year ago that I was gonna invest in a bagel business, I would have told you you were out of your goddamn mind. But it's so funny how it all happened. And
but there's a lesson in this, right? Like, so there's some things, like as a food and bev investor, which I've become in the last 5 years, and Adam's with me on Athletic Brewing. You know, it's sometimes there are things that you have to invest in, and they might not make sense at the beginning. I think
Athletic Brewing, by the way, to me was exactly that. I invested in the passion of the founder, not that I had any idea that the product was actually going to sell in the market.
See, and not to get into Athletic, but the second round, if you tried to make sense of the dollar figures relative to revenue, it actually didn't make sense.
Really?
And so, you know, and by the way, and now that is cheap. But so I think like there are things you have to invest in where you don't like. I haven't done that yet, but I think you can if you think that it could be a good business, even though you don't like it. But here it's like, I just wanted, as someone who is, and I think you're in the same boat, you know, as someone who does the influential thing, does the reporting thing, like it's very rare to find a business that has so much heat to it. And I just wanted to be a part of it. And there should be part of your investment portfolio that includes those type of businesses.
You know, I think it's the classic, like, invest in what you love, or invest in the things that are in your daily life. Like, Darren and Ad, is that something you guys sort of subscribe to when you look at what you're investing in? Is like, all right, what do I do on a daily basis? What are the companies that make the products that I use? how can I get involved in those things? That's something that both you guys think about.
I do now, because all the products that I've used over the last 25 years have turned out to be the greatest companies in the world. And I was always, I was always the guy that would read the financials and be like, there's no way they can do it again next quarter, or there's no way people are going to continue to buy laptops, or the iPhone is dead, the iPad is useless. I mean, all of these things, I was always pushing for the negative. And I changed my tune finally about 3 years ago and just said, listen, this is what everyone around me has. That's better to me than trying to read financials and saying, it can't work. And I felt that way about athletic. I feel that way about this bagel business. Like, people are just loving it. I mean, we cannot keep it on the shelf, and therefore let's go bigger. I mean, let's just keep doing it and bringing more bagels out to more people.
And not to embarrass Adam, but I think, he's a really tremendous businessman. Okay. So like, whether he went out to do it or not, I mean, he created the best bagel ever in a environment where, I mean, you're on the East Coast. He's not creating the best bagel in Kansas. Okay. When I went to Northwestern and I was in Chicago and I had Einstein's bagels and Bruegger's bagels, I was floored at what this was. Again, like, just the only thing that made it a bagel was the shape. And this was not acceptable to a Long Island, Jewish New Yorker. I mean, it was so unacceptable. And so like, he went into the most competitive area where the bagel is known, and as part of, best practices, made the best bagel. And so it didn't matter who he was, whether he's selling flood barriers or whatever, but he's made so many great steps along the way, and it's been really fun to watch. And I love the cream cheese model, and I love the fish program, and it's really cool.
Same. It's been really fun to see, and I can't wait to see what it turns into. Last question for you, Adam. What's the biggest bagel day of the year? Is there an official bagel informal holiday?
Yom Kippur, break the fast, is coming up in about a week and a half. We probably have an entire weekend's worth of bagels already ordered for that day. We're planning on doing 2 weekends worth of bagels on that day. And we have orders from as far south as central New Jersey to Long Island to Manhattan, all over Westchester. I mean, we have at least a dozen people in Manhattan that are willing to meet our driver on a corner at some point next.
Yeah, you're
Thursday.
not delivering the house. Make this clear. You're not delivering.
Yeah, no, we are doing drop spots. Actually, we're going to do a drop spot at Darren's house in New Jersey next Thursday for Yom Kippur. And we already have 12 or 14 people that have bought these big packages, and they're bagels, and they're, the fish and the spreads. I think that's pretty much our Super Bowl. But I will also tell you, Mother's Day and Father's Day, what really hit me off guard was Mother's Day, obviously being in May. We had a tremendous business. I mean, probably the biggest weekend we ever had. And then a month later, Father's Day, to me, usually equates with burgers and, hanging out and barbecuing. And our business on Father's Day was actually bigger than our Mother's Day business.
Wow.
So
for those who don't celebrate Yom Kippur, so you're fasting for in between 21 and 27 hours, and the big problem is you need to pace yourself when the break fast happens and you start eating. And Adam, I think you should put like some sort of flyer in there, to take responsibility to slow the pace, because
slow the bagel eating.
I mean, I usually do 3 bagels
pamphlet
on that day. I think I would probably do 6 pop-up bagels. Like, there could be some fights. There could be some fights. If something you can't. The deal is you have to finish the bagel before you reserve the next one. So I'm worried about houses. people taking 3 bagels at one time, putting on a plate, and then dealing with that. So I
may or may not throw in a few extra
Darren,
bagels on every order just so that doesn't happen.
Darren, I know you're all over the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. If you were to just predict, what kind of damage do you think somebody could do in a pop-up bagel eating contest?
Well, the professional eaters. I mean, I think Joey Chestnut could probably eat 100 in. No, I'm going to get this. 100 and maybe 20 in maybe 15 minutes or less.
No way.
Yes. Yes.
Darren, maybe we should get a contest going.
I actually don't like that because I think that it bastardizes the quality. I don't think we should, these are very rare bagels, and they shouldn't be eaten by one person. It's not fair. We need to get everyone on the East Coast to try this thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would be unfair to imagine being somebody who lost on a supreme like clothing drop, and then it's like when you see the kid with like 400 Yeezys in his backyard.
Oh yeah.
When like nobody else could get it.
I do like what's the slogan again on your hat?
Not famous but known.
Not famous but known is nice. And I also like the fact that I think the problem is when there's virality to something, people get addicted to making it bigger. And
Right.
I do like the stamp on the brown paper bag, and it being the same as it was from the first time I saw it. I think that's again another smart move, because I think a lot of people are either seeking the money or seeking oh, it looks more professional. I think you've kind of been the same from day one, which is great.
Yeah, and we really, from a business point of view, I mean, I'm a very cash flow positive type operator. So I don't get it where if someone says, hey, let's get you fancier baggage or fancier packaging, or do it this way. To me, that doesn't matter. To me, it's a dozen bagels and a couple spreads, and at the end of the day, it's all thrown out. So what are we really trying to make fancier? We just want to keep it fun, and we want to be able for people to be able to afford the product.
Now, I'm curious about this. The thing that drives a lot of markets is the resale market. To my knowledge, that I've never seen it happen in food.
We had it.
You've seen there be a resale.
Yes, so
bagels.
we have about 300 subscribers who on a weekly or bi-weekly basis have our bagels, at the same time every Saturday or Sunday. And at the beginning, when someone was going out of town, they actually posted on our Instagram like, hey, I've got my Saturday 8 a.m. spot. I can't get the dozen. Who wants it? And there were like 3 hits immediately that said, I'll take it. I'll take it. What's your Venmo? What's your Venmo? Now, I don't know that they made a profit. They could have, but it was definitely a very quick transaction. It was the first stub hubbing of a bagel that I was aware of.
That is awfully interesting to me. Imagine, Darren, being able to sell in everything for the cost of the entire dozen and get bagels for free.
It's a little bit different on bagels, but I know that there are legal rules. I think because of Chick-fil-A or something about reselling food. But I think bagels are a little bit different. Like if you I'll change my name, or I'll whatever it is, but still, I mean, that just goes to show you the heat around this whole thing.
It's so funny. So
Yeah.
funny. So what's your goal, Adam? What gets you the most excited right now about it? What do you want to happen?
I mean,
How long are you doing the flood barriers for?
I've got a couple years left in the flood barrier business at least. I mean, it's a great business that we've got a great team that operates it, and it's a very large project business. So we do about 10 to 15 business, major projects a year. And I'm certainly able to manage those. But on the bagel perspective, we've got our first, real location opening up in about 6 weeks, which is going to be about 15 minutes north of where our major pop-up is in Westport. It's not going to compete with that. It's actually just going to grow our market. And our goal is within the year to have 5 locations within 100 miles of where our central store is located. And then we've got people lined up in Florida, California, Colorado, Atlanta, and New Jersey, as well as out east in the Hamptons, lined up ready to kind of license and or franchise. We haven't truly settled on the model yet. But we want to get our product out, 20, 30 stores in the next 2 years. And when I say stores, I mean windows. I mean, these are these are very small footprints with, keeping the same model, which is a bagel pickup window. And you come over and, you've already bought it in advance and you've got a dozen bagels and a couple spreads coming to you. And thank you very much. Enjoy your Saturday or Sunday. No reason for you to spend a half an hour in a line right now.
Buster, we didn't invest enough.
I know. That's always that's the takeaway generally whenever you stop by there.
But Darren,
Well,
it's all right. We'll have another round in about 3 months. You can,
I'll be there.
You can always triple up.
there we go. So where can people find it best? Because you have to be in the Northeast as of now. But
yeah, so the best way to keep up with us is our Instagram, which is Popup Bagels, at Popup Bagels. We don't have a Facebook account or a Twitter, but our Instagram is pretty active. And, we will, if enough people reach out to me from a community, we will certainly do our best to get over to that community and do a pop-up. We've got one coming up in Florida and one coming up in LA at some point in the next couple months, just waiting for some of this Delta variant to settle down and hoping nothing else gets introduced to the air. And we'll definitely be out there in those locations. And again, I mean, we had a successful run in the Hamptons all summer. We were there on Friday mornings and did an amazing amount of business every Friday morning. And, we're already lined up to be back there next summer, most likely in more than one location for the entire 3-day weekend.
Buster, one of my friends in the Hamptons claimed he ate 12 in 24 hours and his wife got home.
Is this John?
Whoa.
Yes, we shall call him John.
We'll call him John.
Well, shout out to so-called John, because that beats my record by a lot.
The one thing I will say, Darren and Buster, out in the Hamptons, we probably did about 50 to 60 dozen on a Friday morning. And I would say that 80% of the people who came to pick up bagels from us on Fridays were the same people.
Wow.
Which is really amazing. I mean, these were not just, hey, this is the hottest fad. And that's actually, Darren, the reason I was okay taking money from people, a few months back when we did it, was this wasn't just a hyped up thing. And at the beginning, it was all about, can you get it within 30 seconds? Can you get it within 60 seconds? They're going to sell out. They're going to sell out. I got to have them. And it's one thing, you look at these places all over the country, and New York City certainly has some of them, where your kids are dying to go to this one restaurant where they get this one creation that's crazy looking and they go and they never go back, right? But they did it. They got the hype. They were there. They took an Instagram shot and they never went back. The people who are vying for our product, once they get it, they're back every time. And if they're not back, it's just because they're away or they don't want bagels this weekend. But this is not a one pump up hype and thank you very much. These people are coming back for more all the time. And I love it. And they're the reason why we're growing like this. And it's super amazing to see when you get that kind of repetitive business.
Well, how are you not 450 pounds? We need this answered, Buster.
So I've gained 40 pounds since starting the bagel business. That is a absolute fact. I think
that's light. I mean, I think congratulations to me.
Thank you.
I mean, I've gained 15 by working from home in COVID and being 7 feet away from my pantry, and I'm not making this stuff, and I don't have a business excuse.
Yeah, the bagel making, I think, is it's tricky. I mean, look, I've been keto in my life. I've eaten lots of carbs in my life. I've been healthy. I've been unhealthy. The one thing I can say is, it's nice to have carbs every once in a while, and it's nice for those carbs to be amazing. Definitely when you're making product like we are and constantly tasting it, you don't realize that you may not have had 6 bagels in the morning before 8 o'clock. And if you're working in a kitchen from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you're exhausted and you can't go exercise afterwards because you're just too tired. So Buster, one of these days I'm going to join you on the no days offsies.
Let's go, man.
You'll see me running behind you, and I definitely won't keep up. But Darren, you don't know this, but Buster lives about a mile or so from me, and every once in a while I'll yell out my window as I see him running down the street, doing his
Like a
his,
crazy person.
his daily exercise.
He's a great daily exercise role model.
Yeah.
And I'd like to throw him my 3 kids to challenge the no days off season. I believe that I would be able to undo him. But I greatly respect everything that Buster does, and that is almost at the top of the list. And I am also a training for marathon, half marathons, and then not doing something for a year and a half, and then eating really healthy. And then, last night, as I was stress eating on bedding, I literally had a Ziploc full of chicken fingers that were for my kids that my wife discovered in the morning. We didn't have lunch for them today. So.
Well, just lots
Darren,
of water and walking to get bagels.
What's your topping on those, Darren? Honey mustard or ketchup?
It was actually, this is gross. It was actually a McDonald's barbecue sauce.
Hey,
those are good. You can't, they might not be healthy, but they're good.
Yes.
Well, I think one thing we can all agree on: bagels for president, whenever the next election is, and can't wait to see everything that Popup Bagels turns into. And this is really fun, guys. Thanks for doing this.
awesome.
We hope everyone gets to taste them, but good luck.
And by the way,
don't have a lot of chance.
Buster, I will say this: if you watch this podcast, the first 20 people who reach out to me from this podcast, I will make sure that you get in our next bagel bake, as long as you're within a relative distance from us. We'll make it happen. And if it's not here, we'll hit you up as soon as we're in your neighborhood.
There you go. You heard it. You heard it there. Follow at Popup Bagels, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Hey, take care, guys.